I am Clay Navarro. I am on the ranch outside Fredericksburg, and the light is still up. But it already feels late because I have been watching patterns for days, and the pattern keeps tightening. The cattle are back in the far pasture, heads down, tails flicking, acting normal. The normal part is what makes it hard to explain to anyone else. I can stand in the yard with a welding hood in my hand and hear a dove on the power line. Hear the windmill squeak once. Hear the stock tank burp when the float valve settles, and still know something is wrong because the scanner chatter does not match what the local news is saying. Rosa is inside, moving through the kitchen with that quiet speed she gets when she has already made a decision. She used to work emergency room shifts in Kerrville. She knows what the beginning of a real crisis looks like. It starts with small bursts, weird calls, gaps in information, and people acting polite right up until they stop. She does not talk about it much. She does not need to. She just watches me drag steel mesh across the concrete pad, and she brings out another bottle of water without being asked. I have the gate open because I am moving the welder back and forth. The front entrance is a standard ranch gate with pipe rails. It keeps cattle in, it keeps honest people honest, and it buys a few seconds against someone impatient. It does not stop someone determined. I am adding welded mesh to the lower half, and I am adding a second chain point so I can lock it from 2 angles. I am not building a fortress. I am buying time. Time to see. Time to decide. Time to get Rosa inside if the road turns ugly. The scanner is on the workbench near the welder, volume low enough that I can still hear the arc. Dispatch calls come through in clipped phrases. Deputy so-and-so requests backup on a disturbance. A medic unit asked to stage. A trooper says he has a subject biting. That word hangs there because nobody on the channel wants to say it twice. Another voice says the hospital is diverting. Another voice says the jail intake is refusing. This is not normal. It is not a storm. It is not a brush fire. Those have procedures. This has hesitation. When I kill the arc and the silence snaps back in, I hear tires on gravel. A truck rolls up slow. It is Earl from down the road, older man, sun leather on his face, ball cap with an oil company logo. He stops short of the gate and leans out the window. He sees the mesh, the extra chains, the stacks of cut pipe by the barn. He says I am turning into one of those internet people. He says the news says it is under control. He asks if I have been watching too many videos. He laughs, but it is a laugh that checks for agreement. I keep my hood up on my head, and I tell him I am just fixing weak points. I tell him I have cattle and a wife, and I do not get a second chance if I am wrong. Earl shakes his head. He says people are not going to turn into monsters. He says city problems stay in the city. He says I should come by later for a beer. He backs out, spits dust, and is gone. The dust hangs over the road longer than usual because the wind dropped. I keep watching that empty stretch, because the empty stretch is where things change first. Rosa steps onto the porch with her arms folded, eyes on the road. She asks what he said. I tell her. She nods once, no surprise, no anger. She says the emergency room used to fill with people laughing about a flu right up until the first patient stopped answering questions and started swinging. She says denial is a sedative that people pass around for free. She does not say it dramatically. She says it as a fact she learned the hard way. The next thing we do is not welding. It is inventory. It is a slow walk through our own life, checking what can keep us alive if the outside stops behaving. I check the diesel tank by the barn. It is a fixed tank, a couple 100 gallons, enough for the tractor and the generator if I'm careful. I check the small gas cans for the truck and the side-by-side. I check the oil, the filters, the spare belts. If a belt breaks in a week where parts stores are closed, you do not drive to town and grab one. You stare at a dead machine. Rosa checks the medical supplies she kept even after she quit the hospital. She has gauze, tape, antiseptic, gloves, a blood pressure cuff, and more practical things that people forget about. She has antibiotics that are not new, but still sealed. She has pain medicine that is not the kind people whisper about. She has a small kit for sutures because she knows what barbed wire does. She does not talk while she checks. She just lays things out, counts, and repacks. By the time the sun goes down, I have reinforced the front gate and the side gate. The side gate is the one that matters because it is the one people use when they do not want to be seen from the road. I also rig a simple bell noise on the inside of the gate. It is not an alarm system. It is a few metal pieces that will rattle if the gate moves. Sound carries on a ranch. It carries too well when you have cattle. It carries farther than you want when you are trying to stay unnoticed. I am setting up sound that I control, sound that means something. That night, we do not sleep the normal way. We go to bed, but the bed is just a place to close our eyes between checks. I keep the scanner on the nightstand. Rosa keeps her phone plugged in even though the cell service has been shaky. I can hear distant sirens from town, faint and then gone. I can hear a helicopter once, farther than usual, and then nothing. The quiet after the helicopter is heavy because it means someone is either landing or leaving. In the morning, the official order hits: stay indoors, avoid contact, do not travel unless necessary. It is written in that calm tone agencies use when they do not want to admit panic. The county posts it, the state posts it, people share it with jokes. Someone makes a comment about toilet paper. That part of the internet is still alive and running on habits. That means a lot of people still think this is a temporary inconvenience. Rosa and I move anyway, because we are not going into town. We are moving on our own land. We walk the fence line where it borders the creek. The creek is low, the pump house sits near the well, and the well is what keeps the place working. If power goes out, we can run off generator. If fuel runs out, we can still pull water with a hand pump if I can rig it. I do not have a hand pump installed. I start planning how to make one. The day after the official order is not a day for optimism. It is a day for converting every comfort into a system. We check the cattle close. I keep the herd calm because the herd being calm keeps everything else calm. If cattle get spooked, they run. If they run, they hit fence. If they hit fence, they break it. If a fence breaks, I am repairing it while other things are happening. I move slowly, talk low, keep the dogs from rushing. Rosa stays back, watching the tree line and the gate. She does not need to be told what to look for. She looks for human movement. The infected are a problem, but people are the problem with plans. On day 2 after the order, traffic on the highway thins and then stalls. I can see part of Highway 290 from a rise near the windbreak. At first it is steady, then it becomes a line of vehicles that stop and do not move. At first I assume a wreck, then the line does not clear for hours. Later that afternoon, smoke rises from that direction. Not a brush fire, darker, thicker. I keep watching, and I see small movement near the cars. People on foot. Too many. The line of cars turns into a parked lot. The scanner starts sounding different. It is not just law enforcement now. It is fire. It is medical. It is county units asking for mutual aid and getting nothing. Then the channel gets quiet for stretches. Then it pops back with a voice that sounds tired and tight. Someone saying units are not responding. Someone says a deputy has stopped answering. Someone else says a hospital is on lockdown. Rosa stands behind me and listens, and she does not comment. But she starts making lists again. Food, water, sanitation. You can have a strong gait and still lose to a stomach bug in a month if you get sloppy. On day 3, the first infected wander onto our road. I do not see them first. One of the dogs does. The dog is usually lazy, mostly interested in scraps and shade. Now the dog stands stiff by the porch steps, hackles up, not barking, just staring. I follow the gaze and I see a man walking down the gravel, slow, arms hanging. He is not looking around for help. He is not waving. He is not moving with purpose. His shirt is torn, and he keeps dragging one foot enough to kick small stones. I do not go out to meet him. I do not call out. I step back inside and tell Rosa to stay behind the door. I take the rifle from the rack, not because I want to use it, but because the distance between wanting and needing can disappear fast. I walk to the inside of the gate and watch. The man keeps coming. Behind him, another shape appears, smaller, a woman, hair stuck to her face, moving in the same slow, unsteady way. I call out then, loud enough to carry. I tell him to stop. No response. I tell him again. He keeps walking, head bobbing slightly with each step. When he gets within 50 yards, the smell reaches me even through the breeze. A sour, unwashed smell with something underneath that I do not label because labeling makes it real. Rosa is behind me at the house, not close, watching through the window. I raise the rifle, but I do not fire. I step to the side and I grab a metal trash can lid that I left near the gate on purpose. I slam it against the post. The sound rings. The man reacts. Not with fear, with attention. His head snaps toward the sound, and he changes direction. He does not run, but he angles toward the fence line, toward the noise. The woman does the same. That tells me something important. They are not coming because they know what is here. They are coming because they follow cues, sound, movement. I keep hitting the lid, walking the sound away from the gate, away from the house toward the ditch that runs along the road. The two infected follow the path of noise. When they reach the ditch, they stumble down, slide in the loose soil, and get stuck climbing back out. They paw at the slope in clumsy movements. I back away, still making noise, drawing them down the road away from our entrance. I am sweating under the sun, but I do not think about it. I think about distance and angles and not giving them a reason to notice the house. After a few minutes, they lose interest and wander toward the brush. The sound stops meaning anything once it is too far. I stop hitting the lid, and I just stand there listening. The ranch is quiet again except for birds. The cattle are still, watching from the pasture. I have not fired a shot. That feels like a win because every shot is a signal. Every shot is a story that travels. Rosa comes out after I lock the gate and check the chains. She asks if I am okay. She does not ask if I am scared. She asks if I am okay because that is a real question with an answer that matters. I tell her I learned something about sound. She nods. She says hospitals had patients who followed sound too, and staff learned to stop yelling because yelling pulled attention. She says quiet is a tool. That afternoon, we start changing how we live on the ranch. We stop doing anything loud near the road. We stop running the generator in the open. I move it into the barn and build a rough baffle with hay bales and plywood so the sound is muffled. I keep ventilation clear so I do not poison us with fumes. I switch chores to daylight hours when possible because working in the dark with a headlamp is a beacon. Rosa curtains the windows. She does not black them out completely. She just kills the straight lines of light. From the road, a straight line of light looks like a home. A broken, dim glow looks like empty space. On day 4, someone stops at the gate. A real person this time. A woman in a dusty sedan, driver's window down, hands visible. I see her from the porch because now I spend more time on the porch than inside. It is not heroic. It is duty. She calls my name because she knows me. It is Marnie from town, works at the feed store. She looks older than she looked a week ago, not by time, by what she has seen. I stay behind the gate. I tell her to stay in her car. She starts talking fast. She says the store got looted. She says the sheriff told people to shelter. And then the sheriff stopped answering his phone. She says her cousin got bitten. She says people are running roadblocks, taking cars. She says she drove back roads to get here because she saw my place from the highway, and she remembered the cattle and the water tanks. She asks if she can come in. I look at Rosa through the window. Rosa comes to stand beside me, a step back. Rosa watches Marnie's eyes, Marnie's hands, the way Marnie keeps glancing behind her. Rosa is reading for injury, infection, panic, lies. Rosa is good at it. Rosa says we can give supplies through the gate. Rosa says we cannot bring her inside. Rosa's voice stays calm. It sounds firm enough that it leaves no opening. Marnie starts to cry, but she tries not to. She wipes her face with the back of her hand, and it leaves a dirt smear. She says she has nowhere else. She says she will work. She says she can be useful. She says she does not want to die in a ditch. Her words are messy because her situation is messy. This is where the ranch stops being a property and turns into a moral trap. I can reinforce steel all day. I cannot reinforce my own heart against someone I know asking for help. I also cannot pretend I am the only person with needs. If I bring her in and she is infected, I risk Rosa. If I bring her in and she is not infected, I add another mouth, another noise source, another human who might panic, another person who might make a choice in the night that I do not control. I tell Marnie I will bring her a water jug and some food. I tell her to leave town. I tell her to go to her sister's place near Harper if the road is clear. She says that road is not clear. She says there are people with rifles taking vehicles. I believe her because it fits the pattern. The moment rules get thin, predators show up. Rosa disappears inside and comes back with a box. She has gloves on. She sets the box on the ground inside the gate and pushes it through the lower gap where I left a space for exactly this. It has water, canned food, a small bottle of antiseptic, gauze, and a note with a frequency written on it. Rosa tells Marnie the scanner frequency we are monitoring. Rosa tells her to use it if she hears anything about evacuation routes. It is practical kindness, not open-handed trust. Marnie takes the box with shaking hands. She looks at us for a long moment, and I can see anger behind the fear. She wants to hate us because hate feels cleaner than uncertainty. She starts her car and backs out. Before she leaves, she says she hopes we can live with ourselves. Then she is gone. The dust hangs again. Rosa closes the inner door and does not speak until we are inside. When she does speak, she says something that lands hard because it is true. She says the ranch will become a magnet if we start letting people in. She says we cannot save everyone. She says that sentence will not feel better tomorrow. She says it anyway. That night, someone tests our gate, not with a car, with hands. The bell noise I rigged rattles once, soft, then again sharper. I am up immediately because my sleep is already broken into light dozes. I do not wake Rosa by yelling. I touch her shoulder and point. She is up, moving, pulling shoes on without fumbling. The dogs are already growling low, not barking. I take my flashlight, but I do not turn it on yet. Light is information. I look through the slat in the curtain, and I see a figure at the gate. A man, cap, jacket, moving with caution. He is trying the chain. He is not infected. An infected person does not test a chain gently. He hears the bell and freezes. He looks toward the house, trying to see if someone noticed. Rosa stays by the hallway, phone in hand, not calling anyone because calling does not help now, but holding it because habit is comfort. I step to the window by the door where I can see without being seen. I watch the man look back toward the road. Another figure is there. Lower, maybe crouched. 2 people, maybe more in the dark. I click the porch light on for half a second and then off. Not long enough for them to aim at the house, long enough for them to know they are seen. The man steps back fast. The crouched figure stands and retreats. I hear gravel under shoes. I hear a car door close softly. I hear an engine start, and then cut off, and then start again. They do not peel out. They roll away slow. That tells me they plan to come back. I do not chase. I do not fire. I do not shout. All of those are invitations. Instead, I spend the next hour changing the gate again. I add another chain. I add a metal bar that drops into a concrete sleeve I set into the ground earlier in the day. I make the gate harder to cut through quickly. I also move the cattle away from the near pasture to the far pasture because cattle noise near the road advertises life. If cattle bellow at night, it carries. If someone hears it, someone thinks meat. Someone thinks water. Someone thinks fuel. By day 5, the power flickers. It does not go out completely, but it drops enough to make the house lights blink. The internet stutters. Cell service drops for hours. Then it comes back. Then it drops again. That is the grid struggling, not dying. I treat it as dying anyway. I fill bathtubs with water because water pressure depends on pumps, and pumps depend on power somewhere. I fill every container we have. Rosa watches and says nothing. She is already doing her own preparations, setting up a corner in the pantry where she can see everything at a glance. On day 6, the first gunshots I hear are close. Not from town, from the direction of the highway. 3 shots spaced out, then a pause, then more, then a burst that sounds sloppy and scared. I do not think about calibers. I think about someone firing without knowing what is beyond the target. I think about stray rounds. I move Rosa away from the front windows. I move myself to the side of the house where the walls are thicker and the angle is safer. We spend more time behind solid things now. That is how the ranch becomes a stronghold without me ever deciding it should. Later that afternoon, a pickup truck appears on our road. It is not Earl's. It is a newer one, lifted, with a makeshift metal rack in the bed. It stops at the gate and the driver does not call my name. He honks once. The honk is short, impatient, rude. He wants me to come out. He wants control. I do not give it. I walk to the gate slowly, visible rifle down, not raised. Rosa stays back, watching from the porch with the binoculars. The driver leans out. He is younger, scruffy beard, eyes moving too fast. Passenger seat has another man, shaved head, staring straight at the house. The driver says he needs water. He says he knows we have it. He says he can trade. His voice says trade, but his posture says take. I ask what he has. He says ammunition. He says medicine. He says tools. He says whatever I need. He says if I do not open the gate, he will come back with more people. He says other ranches already opened up. He says it is better to cooperate early. I do not argue the logic out loud. I do it inside. If I open the gate now, I teach him a lesson that threats work. If I refuse, I might trigger a fight I do not want. If I give supplies through the gate, I might buy time, but I also might paint a target because now he knows exactly what I have and exactly where it is. I see his eyes flick toward the well house. He has already noticed the water infrastructure. Rosa walks up beside me, not close enough to be grabbed through the gate, close enough that her presence changes the dynamic. She tells him we will not open the gate. She tells him we will put one jug of water outside the fence line, and he can take it and leave. She tells him if he comes back, he will not like what happens. She does not say it with drama. She says it with calm certainty, the way she used to tell drunk people in the emergency room that security was on the way. The driver laughs. He says he is not scared of a nurse. That is when I see the bias clearly. He has already decided what Rosa is. He has not seen what she can do, what she has seen, what she is willing to do to protect this place. He thinks strength is noise. I tell him one jug, outside the fence, and then he leaves. I tell him if he tries the gate again, I will assume he is here to harm us. I keep my voice even. I do not raise it because raising it means I am reacting to him. I want him reacting to me. He hesitates. The passenger shifts, and I see something in the passenger's hand, low, near his lap. It is not pointed at me yet. It is enough to make my skin go cold without me naming the feeling. Rosa stiffens beside me, and I can tell she sees it too. She does not step back. She just turns her body slightly, so if something happens, she is not a straight target. That is training. The driver spits out the window, wipes his mouth with the back of his hand, and says fine. He says he will take the jug and go. He says we will regret it later. He rolls forward a few feet, then stops again, then finally backs up and turns around. He leaves slow, still wanting control, still wanting the last word. The dust settles over the road again, and the ranch feels smaller than it did this morning. We do not put the jug outside, not yet. I wait until I am sure he is gone. Then I carry a jug down to the fence line, set it by the ditch, and walk back without looking around too much. If someone is watching from the brush, I do not want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me search for him. I walk with the same pace I use when I carry feed. Normal is armor. That night, the cattle start making noise. Not loud, but unsettled. A few low calls, hooves moving in the pasture. I listen and I know something is in the far fence line, not a coyote. Coyotes make the cattle watch. This makes them drift away, bunch up. I take the binoculars and climb the barn ladder to the loft window. I do not turn on any lights. I look out into a field of dark shapes and dim starlight. I catch movement near the far gate, a cluster of figures pushing against the wire. The cattle stand back, heads up, bodies tight. The figures are not moving with purpose. They are pressing and swaying, and the fence is taking it for now, but not forever. Infected. A small group that wandered from the highway line, drawn by noise and smell and perhaps just chance. If the fence breaks, they get into the pasture. If they get into the pasture, the cattle panic. If cattle panic, they run. If they run, they hit the near fence and break it. Then the herd can spill toward the barn, toward the house, toward the only infrastructure that matters. This is how a ranch dies without a single gunshot. I wake Rosa with a touch. I tell her what I see. She does not ask questions that waste time. She nods, gets dressed, and grabs the heavy flashlight. We move out the back of the house toward the barn, staying out of sight from the road. The dogs follow, tense but silent. At the barn, I grab the side-by-side keys. I do not start it yet. Engine noise carries. I also grab a long pole with a metal plate on the end that I use for moving panels. I have an idea, and it is not a clean one, but it avoids gunfire. We move along the inside of the tree line until we are within range of the far fence, but still hidden. Rosa keeps her light off. She does not scan with it. She uses it only when needed. I tap the metal plate lightly against a fence post. Once. Twice. The sound carries through the wire. The infected turn their heads toward it. I tap again, moving sideways, drawing their attention along the fence line away from the gate. They follow the sound because sound gives them direction. Rosa stays behind me, watching the field and the cattle. The cattle watch us too, confused but quieter. I keep tapping, walking the sound further away until the infected drift toward the brush and start clawing at the wire there instead. That section of fence is reinforced with tighter posts because of past flood debris. If they want to press on something, I want it to be that. It works for now. The infected spread along the far line and their pressure becomes less focused. The gate stops taking the hit. I stop tapping and we back away the way we came. No engine noise, no shots. We return to the house with mud on our boots and the sense that the ranch is now a living thing that needs attention in the night. By the end of the first week, the county feels hollow. No mail, no school buses, no normal traffic. The sky looks the same, but the ground rules are different. Rosa and I set routines because routines keep us from making stupid choices. Morning, check fences, check water, check generator, check radios. Midday, feed cattle, move cattle, inspect gates. Evening, reinforce weak points, cook, clean, rotate watch. We do not pretend watch is temporary. We treat it as a job that keeps us alive. We also make a decision about noise. Cattle noise is unavoidable, but we can reduce it. We stop using the near pens except when necessary. We stop letting the herd crowd around the water trough near the road. I run a temporary water line to a deeper trough farther back. It is extra work. It is worth it because it moves the herd's center of gravity away from the entrance. If strangers come by, they see fewer signs of life near the gate. On day 8, the first beggar arrives on foot. A man, middle-aged, sunburned, hands raised, moving slow. He calls out from a distance and stops where the road meets our gate. He says his name is Daniel. He says he is from a small place outside Comfort. He says he walked because his car ran out of gas. He says his wife is behind him a mile back, sitting under a tree because she cannot keep going. He asks for water. He asks for a place to rest. Rosa and I handle it the same way we handled Marnie. Supplies through the gate, no entry. Daniel keeps trying to tell a story that proves he is safe. He says he was not sick. He says he never got bit. He says he saw people turn without being bit. That makes Rosa's face change just slightly. That is new information, or it is panic talk. Rosa does not dismiss it. She files it. She asks Daniel if his wife has any injuries. He says she twisted her ankle running from something. Rosa asks if there is blood. He says no. Rosa asks if she has a fever. He says he does not know. Rosa tells him to check, to feel her forehead with the back of his hand, to look at her eyes. He looks offended because he wants comfort, not instructions. Rosa does not soften. Instructions are what she can offer without opening the gate. We pass him water and food. We pass him an elastic wrap and a small pack of pain medicine. Daniel's hands shake when he takes it. He looks at our house, our barn, our fences, and I can see the hunger in his eyes. Not just for food, for stability. He wants what we have. He wants it badly enough that his gratitude feels thin. After he leaves, Rosa tells me something else, direct and sharp. She says people will start coming in groups soon. She says once someone knows a ranch is helping, word spreads faster than infection. She says we need a plan for what happens when 10 people show up at once, some crying, some angry, some armed. I tell her I already started one. I walk her to the barn and show her the second line I am building inside the property. A simple funnel with panels and wire that forces anyone who enters through the gate area to move into a controlled space. Not a cage, a checkpoint. A place where I can see hands, see faces, and not have anyone rush the house in a straight line. Rosa runs her hand over the wire and nods. She says it will not stop bullets. I tell her nothing stops bullets perfectly. The point is to stop chaos. The point is to slow a decision down. On day 10, the power goes out and does not come back. It is not dramatic. It is not a loud failure. The ceiling fan stops. The refrigerator hum dies. The house becomes still. The silence is so complete that the ticking of the wall clock becomes loud. Rosa walks to the window and looks toward the town direction, as if she can see a line snap. I walk to the breaker box and check out of habit. It is not our house. It is the grid. I start the generator in the barn, muffled. I do it with the doors mostly shut so the sound does not travel far. The generator coughs, then catches. Lights come back in the house, dimmer than normal. We do not run everything. We run the well pump to fill the storage tank. We run the freezer enough to keep meat from thawing. We charge radios and phones. We keep the rest off. Fuel becomes time now. Every gallon is ours. Every hour is a decision about what matters. That afternoon, Earl returns. He does not drive up laughing this time. He drives up fast, stops hard, and gets out before the dust settles. He is not alone. His wife is in the passenger seat, eyes red, hands clenched on the dashboard. Earl walks to the gate and grips the mesh with both hands. He calls my name with a voice that has no jokes in it. I step out, but I do not open. I ask what happened. Earl says his neighbor got sick and attacked someone. He says the sheriff's office is closed. He says he saw people on the highway smashing windows. He says he tried to call his son in Austin and got nothing. He says he was wrong. He says he needs help. His eyes flick toward Rosa behind me. He knows what she used to do. He wants a nurse in a world with no hospital. Rosa comes forward slowly. She asks if either of them is injured. Earl says no. His wife says her sister got bit and they had to leave her. She says it flat. Then her mouth trembles and she looks away because if she looks at us, she will fall apart. Rosa nods once, not because she approves, but because she understands the kind of choice it takes. This is not Marnie. This is not strangers in a lifted truck. This is a neighbor who mocked me a week ago and now looks hollow. I run the logic again. If I bring them in, I add 2 mouths. I also add 2 hands. Earl knows equipment. He knows fencing. He knows cattle. His wife knows gardens. She knows canning. They also know our land and our habits. If I refuse, they might die. If they die, their property becomes a base for someone else. And those someone else might be the kind that comes testing gates at night. Refusing can create threats too. Rosa looks at me, and I see the decision in her eyes before she speaks. She says we will let them in with conditions. She says no one comes in sick. She says if symptoms show, we isolate. She says everyone works. She says everyone follows rules. Earl nods so fast he almost bows. His wife starts crying openly, hand over her mouth. I open the gate enough for their truck to pass, then close it immediately behind them, chains back on, bar dropped in place. I do not let the gate stand open even for a minute. Earl parks near the barn, away from the house, because I want the first stop to be the checkpoint space, not our living space. Rosa tells them to wash hands immediately. She hands Earl's wife gloves and points to a water spigot and soap. This is not kindness theater. This is infection control with what we have. We bring them into the barn office area, not the house. Rosa checks them with her eyes and hands, looking for fever, looking for scratches, looking for the things people hide because they are scared. Earl looks embarrassed while she checks. He accepts it anyway. That is the difference between a man who wants help and a man who wants to take. That night, for the first time since this started, there are 4 people on the ranch, and the silence feels different. It is not relief. It is responsibility. Earl and his wife, Janice, settle on cots in the tack room. Rosa and I keep our bedroom door shut. The dogs pace. I hear Earl cough once, then clear his throat, and I hold still, listening for any second cough. There is none. I do not sleep anyway. Over the next days, we turn the ranch into a functioning island. Earl helps me reinforce the back gate and add a secondary barrier with a cattle panel system. Janice starts a small garden expansion behind the house where the soil stays damp longer. Rosa sets up a sanitation routine and makes it non-negotiable. Hand washing, boots left outside, clothes rotation, waste management. It is not glamorous, but it keeps people from dying in stupid ways. The infected keep drifting in, singly and in small groups. The ranch fence holds most of them. When a group presses hard at a weak spot, we handle it with sound and distance when possible, and with controlled action when not. We do not run around the property firing into the dark. We move slow. We use headlights shielded so they do not flash across the road. We use the terrain. We keep cattle away from the pressure points. When we have to end a threat, we do it quickly, and we do not make it a scene. The goal is always the same. Keep the ranch quiet. Keep the ranch boring from the outside. By the 3rd week, armed strangers return. This time it is not 2 men in one truck. It is 3 vehicles, stopping in a loose line on the road. I see them from the loft window before they even cut engines. I count heads. At least 6, maybe more. Earl comes up behind me and looks through the binoculars. He does not speak for a moment. Then he says he recognizes one of the trucks from a guy who used to do odd jobs around town. That means local. Local is worse in a way, because local people know where water is. They know which ranch has cattle. They know which place has a diesel tank. Rosa does not panic. She moves into action. She tells Janice to stay inside, away from windows. She tells Earl to take position where he can see the back fence line. She tells me to take the gate position, but not stand where a rifle from the road can pick me off. She puts herself where she can see me and the gate, and still retreat if needed. She keeps the radio on the kitchen counter, even though nobody is answering anymore, because sometimes a voice appears and it matters. The group approaches the gate on foot. One man calls out, friendly tone, hands open. He says he wants to talk. He says he heard we are letting people shelter. He says he brought families. He says he wants to work something out. The vehicles behind him tell a different story. There are no kids visible, no women visible, no bundles of bedding. It is just men, moving with confidence, scanning our fence line. I speak from behind the gate, not close. I ask what he wants. He says water and food. He says he wants a place to post up. He says the world is different now and people need to band together. His wording is slick. It is borrowed from somewhere. It tries to sound reasonable. Rosa stands a few yards behind me, and I can feel her attention. Earl is out of sight, but I know he is watching. Say, I tell the man we can give a small amount through the gate, and he leaves. He laughs and says that is not enough. He says there are more of them than us, and it is smarter to cooperate. He says it is not personal. He says it is survival. This is the moment where people convince themselves they are doing math, not harm. It is still harm. I tell him no. I do not give a speech. I do not negotiate. I tell him no, and I tell him if he tries to force entry, he will get hurt. I keep my rifle down, but visible because hiding it suggests weakness. The man's face tightens. His friendly mask slips. He looks over his shoulder and makes a small hand motion. Two of his men spread out. They start walking along the fence line, testing for weak points. Rosa shifts back and picks up the radio handset connected to the base unit I set in the house. It is not connected to anyone official now, but it transmits on a local frequency. She keys it and speaks anyway, loud enough that the men can hear her through the open air. She says, "Unit on County Channel, armed group at Navarro Ranch Gate, requesting response." She repeats it. The words are for the men, not the ether. It plants doubt. It suggests eyes. It suggests consequence. One of the men along the fence line stops and looks back, uncertain. The leader sees it and his jaw tightens more. He does not like uncertainty. He wants momentum. He steps closer to the gate and grips the mesh. He says Rosa can stop pretending. He says nobody is coming. He says we are just delaying the inevitable. He says open up. I do not open. I step sideways and tap the bell rig on the inside of the gate. A small jingle. Earl, out of sight, understands the signal because we planned it. A moment later, a loud engine sound starts from deep inside the property. Not the barn generator, the tractor, revving hard. It is deliberate noise, controlled and placed. It makes it sound as if we have more people. It suggests we have the ability to move heavy equipment toward the gate fast. The men hesitate again. At the same time, Rosa steps back and flips on the barnyard floodlight for 1 second and then off. The beam sweeps across the men, and for that instant they are exposed in harsh light. It is not enough time for them to aim well, but it is enough time for them to feel seen. Seen men make different choices than unseen men. The leader swears under his breath. Not loud, just a leak of frustration. He backs up a step. He looks toward the road, toward his vehicles, recalculating. One of his men calls out that there is movement in the brush line. That movement is one of the infected that drifted toward the road, drawn by voices and engine noise. The infected is a problem for all of us, and the leader knows it. He does not want to fight us and the infected at the same time. I do not take advantage of the confusion by firing. I take advantage by being still. Stillness is control. The leader makes a choice. He tells his men to fall back. He tells me this is not over. He says he will be back when we get desperate. He walks away, and his men follow, not fully confident, but obedient. They climb into the vehicles, engines start, and the convoy rolls off, slow, watching mirrors, not wanting to get stuck on a gravel road with infected nearby. When the vehicles are gone, I do not celebrate. I lock the gate again, check chains, check the bar. Earl comes out from his position, face tight, eyes scanning, Rosa keeps watching the road long after the dust settles. Janice stays inside. Nobody talks for a while because talking is what drew trouble in the first place. That night we adjust again. We move fuel drums deeper into the barn. We cover shiny surfaces that might reflect light. We set up a second fallback position inside the property if the front gate ever gets breached. We do not plan to hold the line in a heroic way. We plan to survive. That means retreat routes, choke points, and places to hide Rosa if everything goes wrong. Rosa does not argue. She is part of the planning. She points out angles I missed. She points out that fear makes people forget simple steps. So we put checklists on the wall. It sounds silly until the first time a checklist keeps you from leaving a gate unlatched in the dark. Weeks pass, and the ranch becomes what people imagine when they say Stronghold, but the truth is less glamorous. It is constant maintenance. It is checking wire for breaks. It is patching holes where a hog rooted under. It is cleaning water trough algae. It is running the generator for exactly as long as needed, and then shutting it down before the sound becomes a beacon. It is rotating food so nothing spoils. It is keeping the cattle calm when the world outside is not. It is learning that even a strong fence can fail if you ignore one staple. Rosa keeps us human in ways that are not sentimental. She makes us eat at a table, not standing in a hallway with a rifle. She makes us wash up even when we are exhausted. She makes us talk through decisions, not bark orders. Earl tries to slip into old ranch habits where the man decides and everyone else follows. Rosa does not let it happen. She does it without yelling. She just states what needs to be done and waits. Earl adjusts because he wants to stay. Janice adjusts because she wants to stay. I adjust because I love Rosa, and because she is right. We still face the hardest problem, the one I cannot weld away. People at the gate. They come in waves, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs, sometimes a family with a child who keeps asking questions in a voice too loud for safety. We handle each case with the same structure. Stop at distance, hands visible, check for injuries, supplies through the gate when possible. No entry unless we know the person and trust the person and can control the risk. Every time we say no, a piece of us wants to argue with itself. Every time we say yes, a different piece of us worries we just opened the wrong door. One afternoon, late in the second month, a man shows up carrying a white cloth on a stick. It is a surrender sign, but it is also theater. He stops far back and calls out that he is alone. He says he wants to trade. He says he has a map of roadblocks and a list of who is running them. He says he can help us avoid the worst people. Rosa listens, eyes narrow. She asks how he got the list. He hesitates, then says he traveled with a group for a while. He says he left because he did not like what they were doing. His story has gaps. He says enough truth to be plausible. He also says it with the tone of someone selling, not confessing. Earl mutters that it is bait. Janice stays silent, but her hands twist together. I tell the man we do not need his list. I tell him we will trade basic food for basic information if he writes it down and leaves it outside the fence, then walks away. He does not like that. He wants face-to-face. He wants leverage. He starts to get angry, and when he gets angry, he drops the polite words and calls us selfish. He says people are dying because of us. He says he knows we have cattle and water, and we are acting as if it belongs only to us. He says the world will remember who hoarded and who helped. The problem is, he is not completely wrong in the abstract. If this was a normal disaster, we would open the gate and share. This is not a normal disaster. This is a long collapse with predators and infection and no backup. Rosa answers him calmly. She says we already helped. She says we gave supplies to strangers when we could. She says we refused entry because entry can kill everyone here. She says if he wants to live, he needs to find a place that can absorb risk, not demand it from a ranch that is barely holding together. Her voice stays steady. She does not apologize. She does not harden into cruelty either. She states the reality and lets it stand. The man spits and walks away. He does not leave information. He does not leave a map. He wanted an opening. He did not get one. I watch him until he disappears around the bend. Then I take a long walk along the inside of our fence line, checking for places where someone could cut wire unseen. I find nothing. That does not mean there is nothing. It means the next attempt might be smarter. In the third month, the ranch settles into a rough balance. The infected are still out there, but they move in patterns now. They drift along roads, drawn by noise and smell. They cluster around abandoned vehicles sometimes. They wander into fields and get stuck on fences, and then they drift off when the fence holds. They are a constant hazard, but not always the most immediate one. The most immediate hazard remains humans who can plan, who can wait, who can lie. We adapt again by becoming less predictable. We vary generator times. We vary our visible routines. We stop leaving anything outside that looks useful. We move our trash pit location and cover it because scavengers will search for scraps. We also stop burning anything that makes thick smoke. Smoke is a flag. Instead, we bury and compost what we can. Janice takes that job seriously. She turns waste into garden soil because she cannot stand pointless loss. That is her way of staying sane. One evening, after a long day repairing a fence section where a fallen limb tore wire, I sit on the back steps and drink water from a metal cup. The sky is red over the hills, and the air smells of cedar and dust. Earl sits a few feet away, not talking, just listening. Rosa is inside, cleaning a cut on her hand from a sharp edge on the panel. It is not a bad cut, but she treats every cut as a potential problem now. Infection can enter through stupid wounds. Earl finally speaks. He says he has been thinking about the people we turned away. He says he hates remembering Marnie's face. He says he hates that the ranch is safe while other places are not. He says he knows he would have died if we had turned him away. He looks at me as if asking for a moral verdict. I do not give one. I tell him the truth. I tell him I do not have a clean answer. I tell him we make choices and then we carry them. I tell him the only thing we can control is whether we become the kind of people who enjoy power. I tell him I refuse to become that. Rosa comes out and sits beside me, close enough that her shoulder touches mine. She hears the last part. She nods once. She says survival does not excuse cruelty. She says fear makes cruelty feel efficient. She says that is the trap. She says we can be strict without being monsters. She says we can defend without hunting. She says if we cross that line, the ranch might still stand, but we will not recognize ourselves inside it. The next morning, we put a small, controlled help point outside our fence line, away from the gate, away from the house. It is a wooden post with a metal box chained to it and a sign made from scrap plywood. The sign has simple words: water, bandage, directions. No entry. It is not charity. It is pressure release. It gives desperate people a reason not to walk right up to our gate screaming. It also gives us a way to help without opening ourselves. We stock it sparingly. We monitor it from distance. If it becomes a trap, we remove it. It works more than I expected. People take what they need and move on. Some leave notes, some leave thanks. Some leave warnings about roadblocks. One note says there is a group south of town taking women and supplies. Rosa reads it, and her face goes hard. She says we stay farther from roads now. She says if anyone shows up fleeing that group, we help with supplies, but we do not go hunting. She says hunting turns us into a signal. She says we protect what we have first. I hate that she is right. But she is. By the time the first cold front hits, the ranch is a stronghold in the only way that matters. It is stable, the well works, the fences hold, the routines are real, the cattle are quieter because we manage them better. The gate is reinforced enough that it cannot be rushed easily. The barn is organized. The generator runs on a schedule that stretches fuel. The garden produces enough to matter. The house is not flashy. At night it is dark from the road, dead-looking, a place most people would pass without a second glance. We are not comfortable. Comfort is gone. We are not fearless. Fear is not a switch you flip off. We are disciplined. We are alert. We are tired in a deep way that sleep does not fix. We are also still ourselves, and that is the part I guard hardest. I guard it in small choices. I guard it by listening before acting. I guard it by not letting anger make decisions for me. I guard it by trusting Rosa's judgment when my instincts want to do something loud and final. Sometimes, late at night, I stand in the barn doorway and look out at the dark pasture. The cattle are shapes resting in the field. The fence line is a thin line of posts in the moonlight. Somewhere out there, beyond the trees, there are infected drifting through empty roads. Somewhere out there, people with plans are watching for weakness. The ranch holds anyway, not because it is invincible, but because we treat every day as work that must be done right. If anyone ever finds this account, if anyone ever hears my voice over some speaker in a world that comes back to life, the only lesson I can offer is not about guns or steel. It is about patterns. It is about doing the boring work early, before the panic arrives. It is about choosing rules and following them even when your hands shake and your stomach is empty and someone you know is outside the gate begging. It is about building a stronghold out of routine and restraint, and then defending it without losing what made it worth defending.